What's up, what's up? This is Beyoncé on the red carpet with one of the hottest female artists out here, Miss Aaliyah. How you doing, girl?
It's so good to see you
You
again.
too. She's just looking fabulous. What are you wearing tonight?
That is one of the very rare instances where Beyoncé and Aaliyah work hot together, actually having a conversation of some sort. And as it turns out, there's a pretty good reason why such videos are not in plenty, and it's because Beyoncé could not stand Aaliyah, but why? Though, why did Queen Bee allegedly hate Queen so much and couldn't have had anything to do with Jay-Z?
That Jay-Z knew about what happened to.
Of course, you are well aware that Aaliyah passed away tragically in August 2001, alongside 8 others after. A plane crash destined for Miami crashed less than a minute after takeoff in the Bahamas. But one thing everyone can agree on is that the circumstances in which Aaliyah died were pretty sus. And people have always speculated that somehow Queen Bee was involved. But before that, here's something to think about. Just weeks before she died, Aaliyah did an interview in Paris, and this is what she said one day: "I will travel to Egypt. I will be there where Cleopatra and the pharaohs lived." Unfortunately, I can't meet them anymore. If I had a time machine, I would visit the ancient Egypt. Who knows, perhaps Cleopatra and me will become very good friends. At least I would have a live experience of that ancient culture which I only know from books. And in the same interview in Paris, she also talked about another dream, adding, "It's dark in my favor. A dream someone is after me. Don't know why I got fear. Then suddenly I lift off. I fly away, far away. How do I feel now? It is like swimming in the air, free and without any weight. No one can reach me, no one can touch me. It's a wonderful feeling." Then, weeks later, Aaliyah's plane crashes in the Bahamas and she is gone. Sounds like she knew she was being set up, right? But was Beyoncé involved in the setup? I don't know. But there are still very many questions. First of all, there were reports that the small plane exceeded its maximum weight limit by several hundred pounds, which would have made the plane harder to control once it got into the air. Apparently, the pilot had also reportedly faked his license and was under the influence of alcohol and sugar at the time of the accident. And guess what? Aaliyah didn't even get into that plane when she was conscious, and Kathy Ian Dolly is the one who spilled that tea in her book Baby Girl, better known as Aaliyah in the book. She wrote that Kingsley Russell, whose family ran a taxi and hospitality business in the Abaco Islands, was just 13 years old on August 25th, 2001, but he was, with Aaliyah as his stepmother, drove her team to the airport for her return flight back to the U.S. He said that when Aaliyah saw the plane to take her back to the U.S. mainland, she refused to get on board and went back into the cab. Then someone from her entourage returned to ask her what was wrong, and Aaliyah is said to have repeated her concerns about getting on the plane that was overweight, at which point she was handed a sleeping pill and fell into a deep sleep, and then Aaliyah was carried from the taxi and onto the plane, despite her earlier reservations, while she was still knocked out from whatever appeal she'd been given, if you ask me. It sure sounds like a setup, and even Mary J. Blige was convinced that somebody unalived Aaliyah, and she was even scared that she would be next. She was like, "It was just that when I saw her, that's when I discovered the fact that I'm next. I don't know how or when, but I'm next. I don't know what kind of freak accident they're going to put me in or what kind of OD they're going to sort out, but at the end of the day, I knew I was next. I just thought I'm scared." Now, how Beyoncé and Jay-Z may have been involved in the freak accident is still a mystery, but I can tell you one thing for sure. Jay-Z was interested in Aaliyah, and it was not a secret back in the day recently. One person who boldly said that Jay-Z definitely had something for Aaliyah, it's Jaguar. Right, in fact, she actually said that Jay-Z intentionally screwed Dame Dash over because of Aaliyah choosing him instead of Jay-Z.
I think everybody that knows Sean Carter knows that he will slump anyone in any relationship for $1. Look at how he did Dame. Like, I don't give if you wanted to get away from your homie, if you wanted to get away from your partner, but to do it the way he did it, it's malicious. But maybe that was because he was a girl that didn't want
Dame Dash also confirmed that Jay indeed had his eyes on Aaliyah. He even told Page 6 he tried very hard. "I did not mean to fall in love with Aaliyah. She was just that cool. But you know, we were both going hard. Everybody was trying to get to Aaliyah. It was not just Jay." According to Dash, he didn't even know Jay-Z had feelings for Aaliyah before he started dating her. And he added, "I did not know Jay was trying to holler at her. But then it just happened like that. He was trying, I was trying, everybody was trying. He was going hard. And other than Dame Dash people who were around at the time also confirmed that Jay-Z definitely wanted Aaliyah. For instance, there was a time Jay hosted a party, and one of the people who attended said that Jay did not show up, with a girl, and that's because he had his eyes and hands on Aaliyah. At the time, the source also told Daily Mail, I probably thought they were just friends or making music together. Now that Damon has said what he said, it all makes, since Jay-Z was all over Aaliyah, they were hugging each other, and you could totally see there was chemistry between them. I knew that Damon was going out with her, so I did think it was a little weird. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that Beyoncé also saw how Jay was invested in Aaliyah and hated her. There have also been speculations that Jay-Z, in conjunction with the Illuminati, sacrificed Aaliyah so that B could reign. Obviously, Aaliyah and Beyoncé were on the same path when it comes to music, and apparently, only one of them will be able to stay on it, so Jay and the Illuminati selected Beyoncé to carry on the legacy, because Aaliyah was trying to get out of it. So since a lot of things don't make sense, there's always been a debate about whether Beyoncé would be as great as she is if Aaliyah was still alive, with people still posting comments like, I always think about if Beyoncé would have reached the heights she has. If Aaliyah hadn't died, I'm sure B would have still thrived. But Aaliyah passing created a more open lane. But on the other hand, some still insist that Leo would have nothing on Beyoncé, like one person who wrote on Twitter, I love Aaliyah. But when y'all say Beyoncé wouldn't be who she is if Aaliyah was still alive, I must ask, is it crap? And another person agreed, we love Aaliyah. But y'all gotta stop this whole would Beyoncé be this big if Aaliyah didn't die? Because that's simply absurd. Aaliyah was nowhere near Beyoncé's level of stage presence. It just does not make sense. Some people also say that maybe they would actually be best friends and even collaborated on a couple of hits, like this one fan who wrote Aaliyah is an icon. Beyoncé is an icon. If Aaliyah was still alive, they would have collaborated multiple times. Already, what's the need for all of this? And another person who had a totally different opinion also said the argument that y'all keep having about Aaliyah and Beyoncé. If Aaliyah were here, I think people would say she was in the Illuminati and discredited her talent and work ethic and called her overrated and say she can't sing and dance. Why? Because that's how we treat black stars. Well then, all I can say is that I don't see the comparison ending anytime soon, especially now that both Beyoncé and Aaliyah have been nominated for the 2023 National R&B Hall of Fame potential inductees based on the poll. When I voted, Aaliyah was leading in the fan votes, but B was right behind her, and voting goes on until April. So that could also change, but let's just see and wait. And if you haven't already voted, go ahead anyway. I'd love to know your thoughts on all of this. Beyoncé, Aaliyah drama. Would Beyoncé still be great? Even if Aaliyah was around, do you think B hated that Aaliyah was on the rise? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you thought this video was messy, wait till you see the next one, foreign.